Hey songwriters, welcome back to At-Home Songwriting. If you're new here, my name is Chad Shank. I'm a songwriter, songwriting teacher, and I am here to help you write better songs. So this week we're talking about 3 ways that you can level up your songwriting and get better from where you are today. So what are 3 things that you can focus on this week to really help you get your songs to that next level? Let's jump in. The first way that you can level up your songwriting is to focus on a story. And when I say story, I mean focusing on one situation within your song or one main idea, one situation that your characters are dealing with. So if you're writing a song about a breakup, the breakup could have lots of different parts to it, right? So one of the first things you should do is decide what is the conflict or what is the story, what is the situation, how is it making the characters feel, and what does resolution look like? So going from kind of this situation, feelings, resolution. And this will help you create a storyline that you can use throughout your song and to recolor your chorus. So what do I mean by this? When we're talking about recoloring a chorus, we're talking about the same lyrics in your chorus meaning something different each time the listener hears it. Listen to the song Cats in the Cradle by Cat Stevens and notice how the story changes the chorus each time you hear it. That's a great example. Also, Strawberry Wine, that's a great song that does recoloring, so check those out. But what you can do is start with establishing the situation, establish the conflict, that's in verse 1. Verse 2 then can go deeper into this and tell us how are people feeling about it, what effect is this having on the people in the song. And then for your bridge or your third verse, what does the future look like, or what does the resolution look like, or how could things be different? So the first step into leveling up your songwriting is to think more intentionally about your story and how you're recoloring that chorus. So tip number 2 has all to do with contrast. One of the best ways to level up your songwriting is to focus on the concept of contrast. So what do we mean by contrast? Contrast is the difference between light and dark. It's this versus that. It's on versus off. It's rough versus smooth. So how does this apply to songwriting? In songwriting, usually contrast has to do with each section having its own identity. Each section, like a verse, sounds like a verse because it has the same melodies, it has the same rhythms, it has the same lyrical structure. Your chorus then has a different identity. It feels different than your verse. So when your listeners get to the chorus, they know that they're in a different part of the song. So how do you create contrast then? Well, contrast is a kind of a simple concept in theory, right? But it takes some practice. So what I'd like you to do is look at what you have. So if you have a verse, look at what are the qualities that it has. What is the pitch range? What are the rhythms doing? What is my chord progression doing? How am I playing the chords? Am I playing arpeggios? Am I just playing a one chord and letting it ring out? Am I actually playing a comping pattern in the chord progression? And then once you have the ability to see what your verse is currently doing, then you can say, I want to do something different in the chorus. So contrast is about taking simple motifs and simple things that are happening in one section and changing it in the next section so you can give your next section its own identity. And a lot of people will say, well, I want my verses to match my chorus. I understand that concept, but you don't want to bore your listener. Contrast is the key to keeping your listener engaged and moving through your song. You don't want your verses sounding too similar to your chorus, otherwise you'll lose the listener and they're gone, right? In today's age, they would just jump to the next song on the streaming platforms. They might not listen to your song again if they have it on another medium. It's really important to think about contrast. And one of the easy ways, or kind of I guess an easy way to start focusing on contrast is have only one or two simple motifs in each of your sections melodically. And your verse might have one or two different succinct melody lines that you can use to create different patterns. And then your chorus would have two more different or contrasting melodic motifs. Max Martin, who has written a ton of hit songs and is a very successful writer and producer, talks a ton about contrast and using only a couple of very distinct motifs within each song section, because it helps the listener remember it, and it helps the listener know when they've left and when they've returned to the section. So contrast is tip number 2. All right, so tip number 3 on how to level up your songwriting is to write about what you know, focus on a universal theme or emotion, but make parts of it very specific. Because the more specific you are, the more universal you become. So Jason Isbell, who's a country and Americana songwriter and singer, very successful, has written some really awesome songs. He says that the little quirky, specific things are the things that people remember and the things that people tell him they relate to the most in his songs. So as a songwriter, one way to think about this is make the verses very descriptive, make them very specific, like give a sense-based language. Really tell us what things look like. What do they smell like? What do they sound like? What do they taste like? Really get specific to really get into your listeners' senses and their memories. And then in your chorus, you can pull out to the big emotional idea and say, hey, this is the emotion of my song. This is the center of what I'm saying. It's the thesis statement of my song. So great songs are this unique mix of very specific details that are really explaining a big universal theme. So one way to level up your songwriting this week is to start thinking about, what emotion am I communicating? And what is the big idea that I want to communicate? And then in your verses, you can get very specific and very descriptive and really bring your listeners along for the ride. And not only will they understand the emotion, but you'll give them these little mini movies that are happening, and they'll remember your song in a different way than just hearing it through their ears. They'll see it in their mind's eye or their mind's theater. So the fourth tip, and kind of a bonus tip on how you can level up your songwriting, is get feedback from other people that are not in your circle. And what I mean by circle is not friends, not family, not people that are automatically fans of your work. Get feedback from other musicians, get feedback from strangers, people online. Look for local songwriting groups in your community. A lot of communities have song review meetings or songwriting groups that get together on a regular basis to review songs. So for instance, here in Minnesota, we have the Minnesota Association of Songwriters. There's NSAI that you can check out. Also, my group, At-Home Songwriting, we do monthly free workshops. And also I have a premium membership where we meet weekly and we do assignments, exercises. I give feedback, other members give feedback. And I've seen so much growth from the people that are in this group. They start at one level, and within a couple to 3 weeks, they're all of a sudden writing at a much higher level, which is very exciting for me. And I think it could be exciting for you as well. So how do you find this out? Go to athomesongwritingcourses.com, and learning more about songwriting is important. So if you want to keep going, check out this video, and I'll see you on next time.